Hello and welcome to Wrestling with Real Estate, where we look to chokeslam all your real estate problems. I'm your host, former WWRE wrestler and now Cirque du Soleil performer, and of course, multifamily real estate investor, Barri Griffiths. Now today we're joined by Anthony Vicino. Hey Anthony, what's up, man?
Hey, I'm good, man. How are you?
I am fantastic. I won't lie, we just got done recording the first part of this show. I'm not going to say we got back to the second day, but that was awesome. So hopefully everyone checked out that and was excited about this second part. And with this second part, we're going to do a little bit more of a deep dive into passive investing, what that is, what it looks like, who it would suit, you know, what people should do to be successful with that. But before we do that, do you want to just give us people again who might not have listened to that first show, who you are and kind of what you've been up to?
Yep. So high level for me is former professional rock climber, science fiction and fantasy bestselling author, serial entrepreneur, and real estate investor. That's me.
And all-round awesome guy. All-round awesome guy.
Thanks.
On top of that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to hear me go like really too deep on my story, just go back to the first part of this recording.
That was awesome. That was the first conversation was a lot of fun. So you've written a book, right? Passive Investing Made Simple, right? Mm-hmm. So you're the perfect guy to talk about passive investing, I would think. But so for people who don't know, right? They've heard it thrown around. Essentially, what is passive investing? What does a passive investment mean? Investing as a passive investor.
So passive investing, most people are not familiar with it. Like the general population, and this is something that, as you know, real estate professionals, we hear it probably all the time, and so we take for granted how not common it is to most people. And that's starting to change. More and more people are getting turned on to it. But really what it is there are three things that every deal needs. So it needs somebody who has the time, somebody who has the experience, and somebody who has the capital. Now, not all three of those things need to come from the same person or same group. And when we're talking about buying big apartment buildings or commercial real estate, it's very unlikely that any one person has enough time or experience or money to go and just buy it all on their own. And so what investors do is they get together in what are called syndications, and they create a group. They pool their resources, their time, their experience, and their money to go and acquire these assets that the individual investors probably couldn't get on their own. And they go buy them as a collective, and then they operate them, and they have this fantastic investment vehicle that everybody gets to benefit from. They still get all the benefits of cash flow and appreciation, tax benefits, all that stuff. Now, within that syndication, there's typically two groups of partners. There's the active investors, and they're called the general partners. And then there's the passive partners, and they're called the limited partners. And so when we're talking about passive investing, what we're talking about are the people who are sitting on that limited partner side. All they do is contribute capital to the deal to go and acquire the assets, much like if you were just putting money into the stock market and you're buying a REIT or you're buying stocks, you're buying into this investment vehicle. And then that's it. You're not accountable to the tenants, to the bank. You're not liable. You don't have to field phone calls ever. All you do is you sit back and you collect your cash flow distributions. You get your tax benefits at the end of the year. When the property sells, you get a big boost. And it's really fantastic because most people do not have the time, energy, or desire to actively manage real estate. And this is a really cool way for people that maybe have really good income, or they want to diversify out of the stock market, or they've heard how great real estate is, but they don't want to get their hands dirty with like the day-to-day activities. This is a really powerful vehicle. And like our whole platform is built on, let's get as many people aware of this as possible because it's really awesome.
It is. And you know, the difference between a REIT and buying a stock or whatever, you own a percentage of that real estate. You own a piece. You don't own all of it, obviously, but you actually own real estate. You're an owner of real estate without any other complications that come with owning real estate, right? You're not the landlord. You're not the property manager, right? You're not in charge of finding the insurance. You're not in charge of handling the construction, right? Someone like yourself, a general partner, does that for them. And they get to just enjoy, like you said, all the benefits of real estate without the headaches, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
That's exactly it. And, you know, a lot of people, I think it's cool that you mentioned the REIT there, because a lot of people, when they first hear about this, they go, oh, I'm already invested in real estate, I own REITs. And it's really important to make this distinction. When you own a REIT, you don't own real estate. That's not what you've invested in. You've invested in a company whose underlying product is real estate. But that's no different than investing in Tesla. You've invested in a company who is selling cars. You don't own the cars, right? And that's an important distinction, because when it comes to REITs, you don't get the benefits that are associated largely with real estate, which are the tax benefits. Your tax treatment is no different than if you were buying stocks and you had, you know, capital gains. You don't have the underlying cash flow or the appreciation. You don't have any of those things. And so when people say, oh, I'm invested in real estate, I own REITs, you're invested in a very watered down version of what real estate investing really is. And so I just want to make that distinction, because we hear that all the time. And you know, honestly, like until about a decade ago, I didn't know the difference either. So
yeah, no, and it's true. But so how does it work for people who understand? Maybe they have that money and they're interested and they want to. Where do they put the money? How does it work? Do they need to go to the property? Do they need to be at the signing? How does it work? What does that look like from the passive investor's standpoint?
So it's going to be a little bit different depending on the operator that you're working with or the deal. But this is where every opportunity first begins, is with the operators, not with the deal itself. We're firmly in the camp of you bet on the jockey, not the horse. Yeah. And yes, both are important. But the thing to remember is that an award-winning championship level jockey isn't going to get on a lame horse, right? Like Tom Brady, he might have taken a step down, but he went to a team that he still thought he could win the championship with. And if you're betting on Tom Brady, well, good job. You made the right bet there, right? And so that's our approach: is you take a great operator, and if you were to give him lemons, he's going to make lemonade. You give a bad operator lemonade, and they're just going to spill it on the ground, right? And so that's where it starts, is finding people that you want to work with, those general partners who you know, like, and trust, and that have a track record that can execute the deal. And so your time initially should be spent on trying to find those people, because the thing with these deals, the reason that most people aren't familiar with them is it's only been since 2014 that we've been able to bring in what are called non-accredited investors into these investments. Before that, the only people that could participate were called accredited investors. And this doesn't mean that you have to go out there and take a test. It's nothing like that. It's a net worth and income requirement. And so to qualify as accredited, you have to make a yearly income of $200,000 or more in the past 2 years, with the expectation of continuing to make that. So that's a high barrier. Or you have to have a net worth over $1 million, not counting the equity in your primary residence. And so these are high barriers. Only 10% of the population even qualifies as accredited. So before 2014, the only people that could invest in these types of deals were accredited. In 2014, they had the Jobs Act and it opened up, and now non-accredited investors can participate. But the caveat there is that the deals, when non-accredited investors are allowed into them, they can't be publicly marketed. And so you'll never see a deal for an apartment building that a non-accredited investor could invest in on Facebook or Instagram. And so what that means is you have to have a relationship with the operator for them to be able to show you the deal. And so that's really where it starts, is like going out there, figuring out what markets that you're interested in, looking at which operators are in that market, getting to know them, and then getting onto their radar. So when they have opportunities, they can present it to you. Now, two things I'll quickly point out here, if this is the first time that you've ever heard about passive investing, is that the minimum investment amount is typically more than what most people are putting into the stock market at any given moment. Generally, we see minimum investment amounts of around $50,000. So you have to have a little bit of a nut, put aside before you can really jump into these investment opportunities. Some investment opportunities will be less, some will be more, but generally it's around there. And then the other thing to remember is that real estate, it's not a liquid investment vehicle. So when you come into these investments, expect them to take anywhere between 3 to 7 years. So this can't be money that you're putting in expecting to pull out in 2 years for a wedding or for, somebody dies in the family. You got to consider this money locked up and inaccessible for the duration of the deal. So that's kind of like to set the expectations, I think, right out the gate.
Yeah, yeah. And you bring up a good point that the operators are so critical, right? I'd say operator, market, and then the deal, right, is probably the importance of what you're vetting.
Mhm.
But when people are trying to find an operator, when they're trying to find these general partners, do you have some quick tips on how they can vet them? What should they be looking for to find a good one?
So a couple things. I think one, the biggest one is integrity. Like, but that's hard. That's the hardest one to actually vet for,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. Because if I ask you, um, are you, do you have integrity? You're gonna be like, yeah. Like, so you can't just ask the question. You have to probe, and you have to understand where things in their past that haven't gone right, how they've dealt with it, and how they dealt with sticky situations. And anybody that you should be investing with has been in the game for a little bit of time, and they have a track record. And so anybody with a track record has some bumps in there that they can point to and be like, this didn't go well. So you really want to try and figure out the integrity side of the equation. That could come from getting referrals from their investors, but generally they're only going to give you access to the investors that really like them anyway. And so they're not going to give you somebody that's going to probably say something bad about them. You could ask for referrals from some of their more professional contacts. So saying, hey, can I speak to one of your previous lenders or a contractor that's done a deal with you, and trying to figure out, like, do they pay on time? Do they say what they're going to do? Are they kind of sleazy? Just trying to get a feel for that integrity question. Two, you want to figure out, are they actually good at what they do? Because again, like, success leaves clues. It leaves a trail. Like, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. So if they've been successful and they're rock stars, you should be able to find that. And that's what you're looking for. They don't necessarily need to have been in the business for 15, 20 years. They could be in the business for 2 or 3 years if their previous experience is like, hey, I've been building this other thing, or I'm a superstar over here. Like, success, people that have found success in one area of life tend to be able to transfer it into other areas. They can do that consistently. And so you're looking for track record, you're looking for experience, you're looking for integrity. But then another kind of intangible is finding the operators who communicate on the same wavelength. You could find somebody who's a rock star, who has all the integrity in the world, the most highly referred person, but if they don't speak to you in the way that really connects to you, don't do it. Like, it's like marrying somebody who checks all the box, but at the end of the day just doesn't like set that soul on fire in that intangible way. You want an operator that they speak to you in a way where you're like, I get this, I feel heard, I feel connected. Like, and that's a tough one. So you're going to need to spend some time talking and vetting operators to kind of get that sense.
Yeah, yeah, very cool, very cool. And then what kind of person do you think passive investing suits, right? Because it's not for everyone, right? It's a great investment, no doubt, absolutely fantastic investment, but it's not a good fit for everyone. Is there a certain type of people that, or person that this is a good fit for?
Yeah. So the biggest thing, like, I would be a terrible passive investor in the sense that and I mentioned this in the previous episodes, I'm a control freak. If you're a control freak and you like to have your hands involved in everything and you like to have your say involved, then this isn't going to be for you, because one of the things as being a limited partner is that you have limited say. Like, you really don't have any control. And that strikes a lot of people as scary, but it's actually a good thing. If you think about it, an investment opportunity could have, say, 20 investors in it, let's say, and you only vetted the general partners, and you know that they're great, you know that they have experience and that they're the professionals. You don't want those other 19 investors to have a say in what happens in your investment, because they might not know what's best. They might have no clue. And so it's like trusting the pilot or the doctor to make the decision and not putting it up to a vote to all the passengers on the plane. Like, that would be really silly. Like, hey, should we land here? Like, what do you guys think about that? Like, no, like, pilot, make the decision. So that's one thing, is if you know that about yourself, that you can't give up that control, this isn't going to be for you. Now, if you love what you do, you love your W-2, you love working, you're making great money, and you don't care about real estate, you don't want to be involved with it, you don't want to give it any more mental bandwidth than is purely necessary, this could be really good for you. Like, if you're already investing in your 401k and stock market, like, and you just want to keep dumping money over there, this is going to be perfect for you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's just no doubt. It's like, I like the way you put it. Like, you just try and put it. I think you said it's in the first interview, is that you try and put education out there for people and let them decide. Right? It's not a case of trying to push people into it. If they're a good fit for it and it strikes them and it makes sense to them, they're going to be drawn to it. They're going to understand it. They're going to think, this is for me. I think that's the type of person that you want to be attracting, and that's the type of person that will be attracted to this deal. The one that the light bulb goes off, right? It says, this is awesome. This is awesome. So I think that's cool. Matt, I love this. Thank you so much for taking the time. Because I think it's, we hear passive investing all the time, and we're in real estate, so we understand what it means. But for someone who hears that word all the time and maybe is just getting started or maybe doesn't quite understand, I think it helps for them to understand what goes into it. What does it entail? And I think next step for someone, maybe if they want to find out more, is if they were looking for a book about maybe passive investing made simple, where could they find such a book?
If only we had such a thing. So yeah, we're publishing a book. It's coming out in August. And that is really a resource that I'm excited to put out into the universe, because there's not a ton of information out there that's suited or directed at passive investors in particular. A lot of the information out there is like, hey, become an apartment syndicator, and that's on the active side. Like, it's teaching people how to do what we do, but most people don't have that interest. They want to be involved, but they want to be passive. And so that book is coming out in August. It'll be everywhere. It'll be Amazon, Barnes and Noble, probably in the physical bookstore, but I don't know how much longer physical bookstores will be around. So that's maybe a good thing. If you like listening to our voices, we'll be reading the books as well. So we'll have the audio coming out.
Very cool, very cool, very cool. And then if anyone wants to get in touch with you, find out more about what you and your company has going on, how can they do that?
Yeah, head over to invictusmultifamily.com or anthonyvicino.com to check us out, and send up a smoke signal, a carrier pigeon, or just DM me on social media, like whatever's your preference. Like, we're really accessible.
All forms of media, you're out there.
Yeah, we're bringing the old school back.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Anthony, so much. That was a lot of fun and a lot of great information. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, man. This was a lot of fun.